We're recording. So thank you all for being here and welcome to this ritual of transformation. Today, we are going to be working with our inner critic, finding our inner wisdom, and by the end of this, we're going to own our power. So it's going to be super exciting. Okay. I want to get started as soon as possible. I know that everyone's time is super valuable. It's absolutely our most valuable resource. So I want to get started making sure that I offer you a really valuable experience. I also think it's really important for us to come together in this space with intention. And so just to take a moment to bring ourselves into the present moment. Please be sure that your phone is on silent, that your notifications, your desktop notifications are off. We can honor ourselves and each other simply by being present with one another during this hour. So let's just take a moment to connect to our breath. We can all take a deep breath in and just enjoy being present together in this moment. Thank you. So it's super great to see for old friends, many familiar faces, and new friends that I'm meeting tonight. Thank you, ladies, for hopping on a little bit early so we could have a chance to chat. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Melissa Bennett, and I live here at the Watershed Farm, where I partner with my incredible herd of horses and goats and any other critters that want to join us on session. And we work together to connect women to the voice of their heart and their soul, to listen to those callings in order to facilitate meaningful change, support them through the transformation process, and so often to simply offer a safe and sacred space to be, where there are no expectations, no judgments, no instructions, just to simply be in the energetic presence of the horses and of this land and of themselves. And from there, magic just happens. So over the past few years, I've worked to expand some of the opportunities that we offer here on the farm out into the global community. And through that, I've been able to connect with the most amazing women, literally from all over the world. It's so incredible. And while Zoom allows us to see and hear each other, and I'm so grateful to have this platform to do that, it's really been through the act of engaging in these soul deep level discussions and through engaging together in sacred ritual in this platform that have created the deepest and most sacred and most enduring bonds. So it is especially exciting for me to be here with you tonight and talking about this particular subject and later on engaging in a ritual together. My heart lies in small group work with women, whether that's here at the farm or on Zoom. When the horses can't be present, I know that their teachings and the wisdom that I've gleaned from being with them, I carry that in my heart always. And I do my best to model the work that I've learned through them and by being with them in the work that I do all over. I know that I'm doing my life's work when I am creating and holding the sacred space of possibility for women to discover their truth and own their power and live a life of soulful authenticity and creative expression. That's my jam. That's what I love. And I'm so honored to just be a small part of your journey here today. So super quick housekeeping stuff. As I mentioned, I just muted everyone. And that's just to reduce background noise, keep the workshop flowing. The work, we do have a lot. I have a lot to get through. I always end up jamming so much into this hour, but it's super important. I couldn't let any of it go. So just to try and keep stuff flowing. I did, in the confirmation email that I sent to everyone, I did invite anyone who is willing to join as an active speaker participant to do so. So I'll invite anyone who has questions to engage in that discussion at the end of the workshop. You can always unmic yourself and we can have that back and forth. I absolutely want everyone to be present and to be participating. So whether you've chosen to have a speaking role or not, I do want everyone to use the chat box. So anytime you have a question, you want to say something, the chat box is that little white speech bubble icon at the bottom of your screen. And it should be orange now because I just popped a comment in. It will turn orange when there is new comments. And I'd like to actually get everyone participating and familiar with the chat box. So let's start off by sharing with us what city or state or province that you're joining us from. I know that I've had some people from the US and Canada that have signed up to be here. So let's just see who or where everyone is from. While you're sharing that with us in the chat box, I also want to check in with those of you who did accept that invitation to share in the group coaching, the processing. So I'm going to say your name, and if you just want to make sure that you are unmiked, that you click your microphone so that you're unmuted, and make sure that's all working. So Cassie, are you here with us?
I am.
All
Thank you for
right,
having me.
thank you. Thank you. Molly, are you here with us?
Yes, hello.
Hello, thank you for being here. Alyssa, are you here with us?
Yes, hello.
Thank you, hello. Margaret Ann, are you here with us? Oh, I did get a text from her, a message. She says, I don't have a link. Okay, I'm gonna send Margaret Ann a link and we're gonna try and get her in here. Jenny, are you here with us?
Do you want me to do that?
Yes, please, that would be super, thank you. Thank you.
I'm here.
Yay, Jenny's here. Thank you for being with us. Okay, so let's see where everyone's from. South Carolina, a lot of local friends in Chattanooga. North Canton, awesome. Atlanta, Cassie's not too far away, super. Okay, so for everyone that's here, thank you for being here. Let's get started. When we see Margaret Ann pop in, we'll try and catch up with her. So let's get started on this inner critic stuff. So what is the inner critic and why do we even have it if it's so detrimental to our growth and expansion? So inner critic is any voice or thought that we have that is constrictive in nature. And the inner critic will always come from a place of fear. When I talk about emotions, I always refer to them as being either constrictive or expansive. So I will not say that they are good and bad or positive and negative. And I want to kind of look at the inner critic the same way. So constrictive and expansive just refers to the feeling that we get in our bodies when we're experiencing these thoughts, hearing these voices, feeling those emotions. So we don't want to look at this inner critic as being a bad thing. And at no time do I want you to tell it to, you shut up, F you, and how dare you, stupid jerk face, you don't know what you're talking about. Because as soon as we start to have these bad, it's negative, it's shameful thoughts around anything, whether it's the inner critic or anything else, that just creates resistance. That is, all that energy is actually holding on to it. Where there is resistance, there cannot be flow. It is only through allowing that things can flow. It is only through releasing that resistance that we can release this constrictive block that the inner critic puts there. So I typically will do that by saying, and that's okay, just as a reminder. And I say that out loud to myself a lot. So, okay, I'm having this thought, I'm hearing this voice, and that's okay. Just because I'm having this thought does not make it real, because thoughts aren't real. They're just thoughts that we're having. They are energy, and that energy can create a reality. So we can have this thought, and we can hear this voice, and we can allow it. Like, okay, I'm having this thought. I'm going to let that come up, and in doing that, then we're able to work with it. We can choose to hold on to it. If we want to, we can choose to release that. As long as we're allowing that, we're going to be open to that flow. We can also have this thought and hear this voice and create all this resistance around it, which then creates attachment. And when we're in that place of resistance and we've created that attachment, we can't work with it. We can't release it. So all we can do is hold on to it. Good or bad, it's ours. So the first step to silencing the inner critic is to actually allow it to come up and be okay. It's okay. It's kind of counterintuitive to think like, okay, I'm gonna let this happen. That's okay. It's okay. I'm a big fan of Kyle Cease, and he will often say, okay, I'm having this thought, and I love it. And I love his work. I tend to not be able to relate to that as much as saying, and it's okay. But if you aren't familiar with Kyle Cease's work, he's super. And I would recommend looking into him. Okay, so back to why we have this voice. And there's only one reason, and that is safety. That inner critic is there and is talking to us to keep us safe. Okay, and that's why we need to approach that with compassion. However, that is the one and only thing that the inner critic cares about. It wants to keep you safe. It does not care at all, is not concerned at all with your personal growth. It doesn't care what kind of life experiences you want to have. It's not interested in expansion and spiritual development. It is only concerned with safety. That's it. And that's why we don't want to follow that direction. When we do, we will certainly experience no growth and no expansion, because that's all the inner critic cares about: safety, safety, safety. We are actually biologically wired to hear those negative messages louder than positive messages. And again, that goes back to that safety issue. Okay, so growing up as children and in adulthood, in our current stream of consciousness, when we hear the no messages, such as stop, that's hot, or look out for the snake, or you're going to embarrass yourself, don't do this. I mean, those are all those no messages. They will typically carry with them a sense of urgency, and they will require change. And it's because of those two things that we hear them louder, and that we recall them more frequently, and that we attach to them more. So a simple exercise.
We've got rain here in Atlanta.
There she
Welcome
is.
back. Hi.
Hi.
We've just been chatting.
You're muted.
You guys, you're so self-sufficient.
Let's try that again.
Can someone let me know where, oh, you know what? Is it still recording? It's still recording. Awesome. Can someone let me know where I left off, or I guess where you stopped hearing me when I froze?
Talking about the inner critic not caring if we expand.
Okay, we'll start there.
Does that sound right?
Welcome. Oh shoot. Okay, I'm gonna pull up my chat box. I did because it's like a new screen. I don't have any chat. So if anyone had anything in the chat box, throw that back in for me.
It says frozen a bunch of times.
Oh, okay.
Frozen.
Thank you for texting me or messaging me to let me know. I appreciate that.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's just rewind a little bit, and we'll talk about, so the inner critic, it does care about our safety. So thank you, inner critic, for that. However, It is literally the only thing that the inner critic cares about. So it doesn't care about personal growth, spiritual development, any sort of expansion, only wants to keep us safe. So when we follow the inner critic, we stay safe and we experience no growth. We experience no expansion. So that's why we don't want to follow it. We say thank you and don't follow it. Okay. And okay, so I've remuted everyone. We're when we get to chatting and sharing, then you can always unmute yourself and share. Okay? Thank you for your understanding. I appreciate that. Okay, so I also wanted to go back to why we hear this inner critic so loudly. And it's because we're actually biologically wired to hear those negative messages louder than positive messages. And that is because it relates to our safety. So when we hear no messages, things like, stop, that's hot, look out for the snake, you're going to embarrass yourself, don't do that. All of those no messages tend to carry or tend to involve a sense of urgency, and they require change. Require us to like stop a behavior or change a behavior. So there is this simple exercise that we can engage in real quickly here to illustrate that wiring. So I want all of us to recall a time that you were engaged in a task. You were doing something and someone came up and said something to you that caused you to continue doing that task exactly as you were doing it. So you may have something come up, you may not, that's all right. We're just going to continue on. Okay, so I now want you to...
Can you repeat that?
Yes.
Caused you to continue what?
Just to continue doing that task exactly as you were doing it. So whether something comes up for you or not, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, that's fine. We're going to now recall a time when you were engaged in a task and someone said something to you that caused you to change the way you were doing it or stop that altogether. If you were able to recall more memories of continuing a behavior, put a 1 in the chat box. If you were able to have more recollection and more memories around someone saying something to you that caused you to stop doing something or to change your behavior, put a 2 in the chat box. So what is coming up most often for you? Okay. There's a 1, there's mostly 2s. Okay, so it's not completely uncommon for people to recall things like, oh yeah, I was doing this thing, I wasn't really sure how it was going. Someone came up and said, you're doing a great job. So I kept doing it. Like, okay, that was an affirming statement. And I recalled that. More often, however, we recall those times where we received those no messages, where change was required of us, and oftentimes there was a sense of urgency around that. We tend to recall those memories more rapidly, more vividly or louder, and with greater frequency. We're able to have more examples of this. So that's, the answers that were displayed here is very typical. So I share that to illustrate that when this inner critic is coming up so rapidly, as soon as we have this great idea, it's there to say, no, that's a bad idea. It's often so much louder, and we're hearing that with greater frequency than our own inner wisdom. We're actually responding in a biologically appropriate way. So that's just another reason to not feel badly and to not have shame around hearing that constructive voice. That's okay. So there is, of course, a lot more than biology at play here. Our bodies carry cellular memories of all of our experiences. And unfortunately, for many, that is going to involve trauma and abuse. So the degree to which we hear and experience our own inner critic is a very individualized and personal one. So thinking about typically when you hear that inner critic voice come up, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being a little whisper in your ear and 10 being like a jet engine in your ear, how loudly do you typically hear your inner critic? 1 is a little whisper and 10 is like a roaring jet engine. Let's see. 10, 8, 4, 8. So a lot of higher than 5s, right? So a lot is louder than 7, 8, 6. Super. Thank you guys for sharing that. A 2, nice. Couple 2s. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going back into the previous question there. Okay, so we're all hearing this above a whisper. So it's at a voice to a roar. Super interesting. And really, no matter what number you put in that box, that awareness is excellent. Super awareness. So the good news is that as humans, we are also quite malleable, and rewiring is absolutely possible. So to do that, we're going to tune into the much kinder voice of reason that we have, and of course, our deeply supportive inner wisdom. So let's take a minute to meet that voice of reason and the inner wisdom. We talked about the inner critic is always coming from a place of fear, and your voice of reason will always come from a place of curiosity. So comparing that inner critic and voice of reason. The inner critic will work tirelessly to discourage you from taking any risks at all. The voice of reason wants to encourage you and wants to discover possibilities. While the inner critic says you're not ready, you'll never be ready, don't do this, your voice of reason wants to discover those possibilities and ask questions. So it might say, what am I missing here? What can I do to be ready? How can I prepare for this step that I want to take? Your inner critic is not interested in evidence at all, whereas the voice of reason wants a little bit more information, wants to explore, wants to know if this is true or not. So a great tool to use to engage the voice of reason is called The Work by Byron Katie. So those of you that are in the group here, and you can unmic yourselves if you'd like to share. Have you heard of The Work by Byron Katie? Is that something that you are familiar? If you're familiar with that and you've used that, put a 1 in the chat box. If it's totally new, who's Byron Katie? What's The Work? Put a 2 in the chat box. Okay, cool. New information is super exciting. Love it. Okay, familiar with it, haven't used it. Okay, super. So we're going to use it. And this is a tool that you will use, or you can use, for just about every thought that you have. It's a great tool to have in your toolbox. So, the work is simply 4 questions that you ask yourself in response to any thought that you're having or any voice that you're hearing. Thank you, Cassie. Okay, so the first question that you ask yourself is this true? And that's the total voice of reason question, like wanting to be more curious. Is this true? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, then you move to question 2, and that is, can I absolutely know that this is true? Yes or no? 3 is, how do I react and what happens when I believe this thought, when I believe that what this voice is telling me is true? And 4, who would I be without this thought? Who would I be if I did not have this voice telling me this thought or this idea? And that's the total, like, what is possible, right? When this voice isn't here. And if you want to, I can include a link to that in an email I can send out later, but it's simply thework.com, and you'll find more information about that in detail. And then Byron Katie's got a lot of great information. Another one is called a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. that is pretty fun to work through and pretty insightful. So thework.com is where you can find more information on that. Okay, and then, so we have the inner critic, and we have the voice of reason, and then we have our inner wisdom. So we're going to meet that. Chances are that you've already met your inner wisdom. You may have called it something else, like deep down. Deep down, I know this is true. Or in my heart, I know that I'm meant to do this. Another one is I can feel it in my bones. This is it for me. Like I can feel that in my bones. And let's really pay attention to that language. Okay, all of those are messages from our body. That's not thinking thoughts from our brain. That is not analytical. That is not our overdeveloped neocortex telling us this stuff. And that part of our brain typically spends most of its time thinking about what it's thinking about, right? These are messages that are coming to us at a cellular level through our bodies. And that's why that language is used. In our heart, deep down, in my bones, in my gut is another one. And since we are souls who happen to have a body rather than bodies who happen to have a soul, we are spirit in a body. This is how we receive messages from our souls. This is how our souls speak to us, is through these bodily messages and these bodily reactions. If you want to, that's another resource that I can send out, but if you want to learn more about, there's a lot of scientific research being done around the intelligence of our heart through heart math. There is multiple brain intelligence, which talks about and looks into the possibilities of the head, heart, and hara, or gut connection, and how we can integrate all of our brains and our entire body into making decisions. Really interesting if you wanted to dig deeper into that. So one of the most effective, this is like where inner wisdom comes from. And one of the most effective ways to tune into this inner wisdom is through meditation. Now, it's especially effective if you can engage in a daily practice, simply because that builds a stronger conscious connection to your deep down and to your heart space. That connection, of course, is always there. It is always there. This is not something we're creating. It is simply something we're tapping into. When we engage in this meditation, when we engage, even just simply connecting through breath to connect to our body, we are tapping into that connection that was and is and always will be there. So that is always there for you. You can always start with an attainable practice. So when I say, oh, a daily meditation practice, people are like, oh, shit, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. That's too much time, right? So work with what feels good to you, and what you feels encouraging and exciting to engage in. So maybe that's just sitting and noticing your breath for a minute every day, maybe a couple of minutes of silent meditation. Maybe you like guided meditation. So whatever works for you, and it doesn't have to be meditation, it's whatever is your way to connect to that deep down. And simply journaling and noticing when you get those messages and when you feel that in my heart and deep down and in my bones, when you're having those messages come through to you, what's going on? What activities bring you closer to that and allow that flow and allow those messages to come up? In fact, if anyone has an answer to that, where they know, share that. Either you can unlink and share it, or you can put it in the chat box. Like, what brings you closer to your inner wisdom? What activities do you engage in where you feel that connection to your heart, to your deep down? And if you don't know, that's okay. That just means you get to find out. Journaling, that's an excellent one. I too, as a writer, that is where I can find my connection. The dark room, how exciting for a photographer to be, in that I've never been in a dark room, but how exciting. I'm excited for you. With my horses, Amy, you and I, right? Me too. I totally get that. Sleeping and doing my dishes. Sleeping, that's an interesting one. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we get into our ritual. / dreaming, yes. Okay, Jenny says you can come on over, do her dishes. Hiking, trail, out with nature, absolutely. At the beach, in nature, beautiful. I love it. Can you guys feel that? So again,
one thing that I did,
go for it.
I've gotten better at meditating. I used to get really I'm too busy to meditate, but I've gotten where I really, really like it. And then yesterday, when I was doing schoolwork, we had to do a scientific study on the positive and negative ions with the earth. And one of the studies actually had found out, they did a study with an earth mat, and they had a placebo, and the people who actually slept on the earth mat got better from fibromyalgia and different things. So yesterday when I went out with the dogs, I actually took my shoes off so I could walk around barefooted, and it made me feel so much better.
I love that. Yeah, earthing. I know that they make all sorts of products that can make earthing maybe a little bit more possible for people who don't have access to that out their front door. There is something about being barefoot. Thank you for sharing that. Very interesting. Okay. Another technique is, we are connecting with our body. These are messages that are coming from our physical body. So is to engage in body scans, which can be as in-depth and long as you want them to be, or as quick as you have the time for. So often when I am up against resistance and in facing a challenge, I will tend to do a little bit of a deeper body scan, and that's just simply noticing my body in space, noticing what sensations are coming up for me, what part of my body is calling to me the most, focusing on that and saying, okay, what is the message there for me? You can also do just quick check-ins. Anytime that I feel like confusion or I've been experiencing flow and then there's some break in that, I just take a breath, connect again, bring my awareness to that connection and just ask myself, okay, what do I need in this moment? And that's all you need is to take care of yourself in this moment, especially when you're in a state of resistance and confusion. You can just take care of what you need in this moment, then you're good. Another thing that I've worked with people to do is, if you're not acquainted with checking in with yourself in that way, just to, I guess, get yourself more acquainted with accessing those messages from your body, it's helpful to set a timer on your phone. That timer pops up and it just says, what do I need right now? So it's simply reminding yourself to check in and see what you need. I've worked with women who they forget to eat and sleep and take care of themselves. So just that, like, oh yeah, I'm hungry. It's kind of funny to think like, wow, how can you forget to eat? But when you are disconnected from your body and its messages, it's not real selective. It's just, you're missing out on everything, including getting those basic needs met. So anyway, those are just some methods and techniques for reestablishing that connection. Do you forget to eat all the time? Yeah. So it's not that uncommon. Is what I'm discovering. Yeah. So it's just that disconnection from your body. It happens, right? It's okay. So we talked about the inner critic always coming from a place of fear. that voice of reason always coming from a place of curiosity, and that inner wisdom will always come from a place of love, because that is our true nature as humans and as spirit and body. Our essence and our true nature is always rooted in love. That's why it feels so good to connect to that place, because that's where we live, right? That deep down is not a place that you visit. That is actually you. When you are in that, like, oh, deep down, I feel like that's you're connected to you, right? It's not like a little place you can just go visit when you want to. That's you. That's exciting. Okay, so now we're going to get into working with that inner critic, getting some things moving, flowing. We're going to do a little ritual here. Okay, and I think we're pretty good on time, despite me having to pop off there or I got pushed out. So let's get to working with the inner critic. So the 5 most common inner critic traits, so we can start identifying when this comes up. It's very harsh and sudden. So as we mentioned before, it has that sense of urgency. Very binary. It will present in black and white. There's no gray. If there is, it's not interested in it. That's where that voice of reason wants to explore that gray area. The inner critic is like, nope, black, white, very binary thinking. Inner critic also will play on repeat. So it will have common phrases that are unique to you that almost play like on a tape loop. It's like this treadmill that takes you nowhere. I guess as most treadmills do, they tend to take you nowhere, right? Also, the inner critic is irrational. So you can hear these voices come up and you can say, okay, logically, I know that's not true, but I'm still attaching to it. I'm still having feelings around, like, I know I'm not the worst, like I'm not a terrible human being, but I can't stop hearing that, and I can't stop feeling like a terrible human being. It's not rational. And then finally, a common trait of the inner critic is that it will send you on this downward spiral of shame. So it will often be shaming in nature. And then it will say, I can't believe you're thinking these thoughts. This is terrible. That's terrible that I'm having these thoughts, right? So it's sending you shaming thoughts and then shaming you for having shaming thoughts. And this all will happen in various degrees. So maybe you don't hear that you're the worst and the human being on earth, but you will hear that you're a terrible writer, you're a terrible mother, you're a terrible this or that. So it's all very individualized and unique experiences. Okay, so the 5 again. Can you hear me now, Jenny? Am I cutting out?
Just every once in a while.
Okay. So the 5 again, and I can share these. It's harsh and sudden. It has that sense of urgency. It is binary, that black and white thinking. Plays on repeat, like a tape loop. Is irrational. And it sends you on that downward spiral of shame, often very shaming. So those are the 5 most common traits. There are others, but those tend to be what comes up the most. Now in women, there are 3 ways that this inner critic will show up, more so than, and we all have this inner critic, men have it too. But women experience it more likely in these 3 ways. And the first one is not being ready or not being worthy. So you're not ready for this, you'll never be ready for this, and you don't deserve it anyway. Being not ready and not worthy. The second one is not capable, particularly in fields of technology, research and academia, science and mathematics, and business and negotiations. So, and you can unmic to share with me here, but why do you think that is? Why are these fields particularly, like the inner critic is particularly susceptible to telling us we're not capable in these fields? Technology, science and math, business and negotiations, what do those have in common?
I'd address that because in real estate, investing, especially when I first started out, it's the man's field.
Yep.
So even when you know something, and especially if it's in a group of men, you can know you're right, and then somebody will say something. Well, no, it's this, and then I pause and go, oh, wait a minute. Well, is it that way? And I had to learn to stop pausing when I know my shit.
Yeah.
When I know my stuff, I know my stuff. And I'm not going to let you, I don't care if there's 6 of you, I'm not going to let you push me into something I know's not right, or, and it's, especially in negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think they all have in common. It's a male dominated, all of it's male dominated. So that's my thought.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely it. And Leanne says, yeah, because they're male dominated. And Cassie said, tough jobs negate to be men's work, right? And then we get again on this spiral because we don't go for those opportunities, because we have this inner critic that's saying, oh, you're a woman, it's something a man does. And so we don't take these opportunities, we don't experience them, we're not given the opportunity to learn and grow. And so it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we don't even take those opportunities that are given to us. And we are capable. So yeah, very, very astute, the male dominated thing. Okay, so finally the third one, and this is what I received the most response to in my emails as people were replying back to me and sharing their challenges, is body image. So that unfortunately is no surprise probably. As women, we tend to have so much of our inner critic voice around the way we look. So I would like for everyone here, and especially the small group, because that to unmic yourselves, because we're going to start doing more of this processing, but to write down any inner critic phrases that you hear most often or the loudest. So everyone, whatever phrases are coming up, usually that first thing that comes up is going to be what you struggle with the most, or what you hear the loudest. And as you all do that, I would like for you to share in the chat box just one word that best represents the language that your inner critic uses. So some of the things that we just discussed, that one word might be fat, unworthy, lazy, stupid. So what words are coming up? Lazy, worthiness, dumb, unreliable. And as those words are coming up and we're reading those, I want to ask each woman that's here in this small group that chose to participate, I would like for you to share one phrase with us. So I'm going to say your name, and when I do, I want you to speak aloud that phrase 3 times, doing your best to share that in the voice or the tone that you hear it in. So I'll start with Alyssa. We'll go Alyssa, Molly, Jenny, Margaret, and Cassie. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to read those words that came up. And then I'd like for that small group to have that phrase ready to share. We're going to say it 3 times aloud in the voice that we tend to hear it in. And again, the words that came up in the chat box: lazy, unworthy, dumb, unreliable, weak, inexperienced, and unworthy. Alyssa, can you share your phrase with us 3 times?
I guess it would have to be, you're such a lazy ass. I was going to say it 3 times.
Yeah.
You're such a lazy ass. You're such a lazy ass. You're such a lazy ass.
Molly, can you share with us?
It will never turn out how you're picturing it will. It will never turn out how you're picturing it will, so don't even bother. It will never turn out how you think, so don't even bother.
Thank you. Jenny, can you share with us?
Yeah, mine is usually, you're not smart enough to make it. You're not smart enough to make it. You're not smart enough to make it.
And Margaret Ann, can you share with us?
Yeah, this is more recently is you just don't have enough experience. You just do not have enough experience. You just don't have enough experience.
Thank you. Cassie, can you share with us?
Mine is usually, you're asking for way too much. You're asking for way too much. You're asking for way too much.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So let's just allow what we're hearing to come up. And knowing that that's okay, that we're having these thoughts, it's okay that we're hearing these voices. Just because we're having these thoughts does not make them real, does not make them true. And something else to notice too is, does your inner critic speak in the first person or the third person? So you might hear it as, I'm so stupid, or you might hear it as, you're so stupid. And we can go further into that some other time and where that comes from and why that happens. But for now, it's just interesting information. Just simply notice and be aware of how your inner critic speaks to you. Both ways, yeah. Good noticing that. Okay. So I would like for us to move into engaging in a bit of a ritual. Okay, so there are many approaches and techniques and many rituals that we can engage in to release these inner critic voices. And again, that can be as simple or as elaborate as you feel called to make them. The ritual that I chose for us today is, it works within our constraints of time and space. So we only have an hour to get through everything. You can recreate this ritual. You can create your own. And I wanted to go back to Molly's comment about sleeping, and that's when she connects to her inner wisdom and dreaming. So generally, nighttime is the best time for doing these releasing ceremonies because our conscious thoughts from the moment we wake up until the moment we fall asleep creates this momentum from the moment we wake all through the day. And that momentum eases up and is released when we fall out of conscious thought, and that typically happens during our sleep cycles. So right before bed in the evening, or whenever you sleep, or even before a nap, that generally allows for a more complete release of the energy. So I wrote, let me just take a minute to make sure I have everything here for us. I'm gonna grab my fire. I'm doing a little bit of a fire ceremony. I think my table's probably too low for you to see everything, but so what I did is I wrote some of those keywords and phrases that were being shared, just as you have written yours down on your paper, hopefully. And I like to hold the paper, and as I do, and as I read these words and I read these phrases, again, to just allow that energy and allow that emotion to come up through my body and be released onto that paper. And I might rub the paper. I like to use breath, and so releasing through breath and exhaling. So again, allowing everything that's coming up for you and the feelings and emotions that this voice is creating in your body. Let that come up, and we're going to release it through breath and an exhale. And so I'm symbolically putting all of that energy and all of that emotion into this paper. And exhaling, releasing that from my body. I might visualize that coming up through my body and into my arms and out my fingertips as I rub that into the paper. Now also on this paper, I've attached a cord. And I did this because this cord represents the etheric cords or the energetic cords that we create, whether consciously or not, by attaching meaning and emotion to these words and these phrases as they're coming up. So first, I'm going to cut that cord because it is attaching us to this energy and to this constrictive energy. So I'm going to use my scissors to physically cut that cord. And oftentimes when I do cord cutting ceremonies and I work with that energetic cord, I will ask for assistance from whatever is your higher power, God, the angels, spirit, source, to come and ask for some help in releasing that energy and cutting those cords. Next, I'm going to burn the cord to dissolve that connection. And it is going to burn the paper and release all of that energy that we now have placed on our paper and allow that energy to return to the earth, to be sent up into the cosmos, to be sent up to the heavens, to be renewed and recycled, because that energy is not negative. Energy is energy. It becomes negative when we attach those constrictive and negative thoughts and emotions to it. So when we release this energy and we watch that burn and we watch those words disappear and dissolve, that energy, we're not sending bad things or negative things up into the universe, right? This is just a release of energy. And that can be recycled and renewed and used for good. So again, you can, if you wanted to recreate with your own, paper, a burning ceremony. You might also lift it up, flush it down the toilet, whatever feels good to you. And once that has left our space, that energy has been sent away, that cord has been cut, I like to cleanse whatever space or whatever area I'm working in. So right now I'm using a white sage bundle, but you can do this again in many different ways. So I will say, cleanse the space to start anew, clean the air, and with love imbue. So we have cleared out all of this energy. We are left with clean space where only love exists as our true nature. Let me actually leave this flowing a little bit. Just myself here. Okay. That feels different. To hear the heaviness of all of that and that constriction in those words and phrases, and then to be able to release that and feel that difference in your body. So we now have this space. We now have cleared and made room, and we have this open space. And we know that nature abhors a vacuum, and energy is no different. By cutting cords and releasing that energy of our inner critic, we have created space for something. Something is going to fill this in. So let's be intentional about what we put in this space. So in this new open space and in this new energy, I'd like for us now to all connect to our inner wisdom, to that place of deep down, to that heart-centered space. And we can do that simply through our breath. Just taking a moment to feel that difference in our body, to feel that release, to feel that open space. And connect through breath. And wherever you feel that inner wisdom lies with you. So whether you're connecting to your heart, you're listening to your gut, you're wanting something to resonate up through your bones, take a breath and connect to that space. And I want you to ask, what is my truth? What is my truth? So it could be that your truth, or you could be asking for, what is my truth as it relates to that previous inner critic statement, though it doesn't have to be related to that. So simply listen to and follow whatever is coming up for you. And I'd like for everyone to share what is coming up for you around your truth. And I'll ask that the small group here tonight share theirs in a similar way. So what phrase is coming up for you? Perhaps it's in relation to that inner critic voice. And we're going to, again, speak that out loud in that tone that we hear it when it comes up for us from our heart or as it's resonating through our bones. And whatever way you hear that voice, share it with us by, again, saying it 3 times. We'll go in reverse order. So I'll start with Cassie this time. While you're all writing those down and sharing those in the chat box, and if you want to put in the chat box one word that best represents the language that your inner wisdom speaks to you in, go ahead and do that now. While you're doing that, I'm going to share my personal story around the first time that I tapped into my inner wisdom and what I was typically hearing from my inner critic. So my inner critic always talked to me about not being ready and not being qualified. And I listened to them. And so I was on this, and I endlessly sought additional certifications. So not just education, that wasn't good enough. I needed it to be a certification. I needed to have something to show people that I knew stuff and that I took classes, that I graduated. And so I would do that. And then I would hear, well, you're not qualified. Okay, I'll go and do this. And it never ended. I mean, it was never going to end. I was never going to be qualified enough. I was never going to be good enough as long as I was following that inner critic voice. And so when I started to listen to what my inner wisdom was telling me, the first time that I did this, it said to me, you have a completely unique skill set. Wasn't earth-shattering. It wasn't, it didn't feel like this giant leap, right? It wasn't unbelievable to me. And I began to realize that as my truth. Like, oh, I have this completely unique skill set. So there was nothing out there that could teach the unique / weird ass shit that I had compiled over the course of years of seeking education and seeking certifications, right? Like, I had this completely unique skill set that no one else is going to be able to acquire. And that was my power. Like, that was my superpower, this extremely unique skill set. And as a result of that, I only sought out educational opportunities because I still wanted that education. But I didn't care so much about the certifications anymore because it didn't matter. I only sought out educational opportunities that absolutely lit my soul on fire, that got me excited. And most importantly, what happened was that I began to share my gifts with the world because what I had was enough, because I was finally enough. So that's the gift that I got from my inner wisdom. And again, it wasn't earth-shattering information, but it was my truth. And that's where my power lied. So I want to go through and read some of the stuff that's coming up in the chat box and some of these words that our inner wisdom is sharing with us. Okay, so free, loving, comforting, you can change, teaching, beautiful. Let's let that come up. Let's see how that feels. And also, so let's go back to and hear from the group on what they discovered as their truth and what their inner wisdom message is. So again, we'll start with Cassie. Is there anyone in that small group who's not ready, needs some extra time, or needs a little bit of help on sorting that out or connecting with them? Good? We're ready? Okay, let's do this. So, Cassie, can you go ahead and share with us what is your inner wisdom telling you?
It's saying to me that I am special and I don't need to apologize for it.
Say that.
I am special and I am special and I don't need to apologize for it. I am special and I don't need to apologize for it.
Beautiful. Margaret Ann, can you share with us?
I think I've been doing this like without realizing it for a while. And what's interesting though that just hit me tonight was the inner critic is always third person and the answer is always first. I don't think I had realized that before. So the first phrase that came to my mind for this is, I am so talented and I've got this.
Say that again.
I am so talented and I've got this. I'm so talented. I've got this.
Nice. Thank you. Jenny, can you share with us?
Yeah, I'm actually out here. You are smart. You didn't get this far by being dumb. You are smart. You didn't get this far by being dumb. You are smart because you didn't get this far by being dumb.
That's right. That's right. Molly, can you share with us?
Yeah, if I can find my button.
Okay. You can find your
what
button.
comes up for me, I can't find my button. Unmute. What comes up for me is go deeper even if no one else understands why. So go deeper even if nobody else understands. Go deeper even if no one else gets it.
Awesome. Alyssa, can you share with us?
I felt kind of conceited when this first came up, but now I feel better about it. Because mine just said, you were amazing. I'm amazing. I think it was in first person. It was definitely in first person. So, I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm amazing.
Nice. Oh, I like that you let go of that conceited stuff. Good for you. Oh, okay. So let's, again, just take a moment to notice what's coming up for us when we hear this. How do we feel in our bodies? I want everyone to make sure that that is written down, whatever your inner wisdom is saying to you, that is written down and put in a place that you will see it first thing in the morning. You are amazing women. Look at that. Yeah, so write that down. Put it where you're going to see it first thing in the morning. If you set your phone alarm to wake you up, I want you to change that alarm label to read whatever that message of inner wisdom is. Again, our conscious thoughts are going the minute we wake up, oftentimes before we even realize we're awake, our conscious thoughts start and that momentum starts to build. So let's build it around these messages of inner wisdom. Throw some reminders on your phone throughout the day to have these messages pop up. What a nice surprise. Hello, phone. Oh, yes, thank you. It's true. This is your power. You need to stay connected to this, whatever works for you, all right? It's all true. It's all you. That came from your body. No one told you that. That's you, all right? So I want to see if anyone has any specific questions. Now, first, as you kind of think about that and any questions come up, I wanted to address a question that I received prior to the workshop, and that is on taking leaps. So someone wanted to know if there were guidelines for taking leaps, and were these guidelines spiritual in nature or more of a man-made thing? So my response is, of course, going to be, well, everything is spiritual in nature. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I did think about this, and I did come up with what I think are some guidelines in taking a leap. So what happens when you take a leap, and what are some ways that you can do that in a way that's going to help you, I guess, learn more, integrate more of what you're learning through that process of taking that leap. So the first one is to stay present. Having the ability to access higher levels of awareness, at the same time staying grounded and aware of the process. Having that higher level of awareness is going to allow you to integrate more of what you're learning, especially those things that you're learning at the spiritual level, at the energetic level. But again, not staying connected to that place without dissociating from the process, the more like physical realm process stuff. So practicing running energy is a great way of doing that, where you are putting down your grounding cord, you're attaching to that, but you're also calling in and connecting that that energetic connection to whatever your higher power is. Okay, so that's one, staying present. Having support in place. So whoever that is, if that's a friend, a coach, a therapist, a business partner, a spiritual advisor, making sure that someone is there just to help you process through that, because leaps can send us to all ends of the spectrum of emotions and experiences. That's why they're great. They kind of fast forward our learning process, and they kind of fast forward everything. So a lot happens during those. And the third is being receptive to feedback. So because these leaps can send us all over the place emotionally and mentally and even physically, they can be kind of draining and exhausting. Know that when you're in that process, it's easy to miss things. So having outside eyes that can give you feedback, can share honestly with you, can be super helpful. So does that answer your question? Is that helpful? Do you have more questions around that? Okay, so hopefully we're good with that. Is there anyone else that, okay, thank you, Cassie. Is there anyone else who has other questions about the process that we did tonight, or about inner critic stuff? Super duper. Okay, so I would like to share with you guys something, an offering that I have for you. So for every woman that is here right now and every woman that will watch this on the replay, there will be that many needs and desires. So everyone has very unique needs, very unique desires. And so while we all come together with these individual stories and experiences and voices and things that we're working with, we're also all here to share this common thread of wanting to experience more growth, more courage, more confidence, tapping into that deep down, our inner wisdom, and stepping into our unique expressions as the creative and powerful and amazing women that we are. So if you found this experience in this workshop valuable, I would like to offer you an invitation to join me in following this path a little bit further. I'm missing the kitty. I gotta scroll and see. I love it when the kitty cats join us. Cute. There's Kitty. Yeah, so yeah, I would like to invite you to join me in exploring this topic further and exploring these things that really matter the most at a deeper level. So I facilitate an online women's circle, and we gather in both ritual and just in discussion around a variety of topics. And as we're closing out this year and we're entering into the new year, our focus is really going to be kind of similar to what we shared here tonight, actually, and that is around releasing all that is no longer serving us and does not support our growth and our expansion. So what we experienced in this very short amount of time is a little tiny fraction of what I offer. And I'd like to share more of that with you. So as I mentioned, Gathering with Women on Zoom has opened up a world of opportunities to connect with incredible women that I would not have otherwise been able to meet. And I'm extremely grateful for that. It's also allowed me and other women in the circle as well to develop stronger bonds, even with people that we live locally to and that we actually have a chance to see. But because of the convenience of gathering online in this way, there's not the additional requirement of driving and childcare or even putting on pants, which is pretty awesome. I do have pants on, by the way. But that convenience, it can't be overlooked. So I really appreciate that. There are, however, of course, drawbacks and challenges to creating sacred space online. We can't offer a reassuring hand or an encouraging hug. When I led us in that ritual tonight, you couldn't smell the sage that was burning, or you couldn't feel the heat generated by that fire of releasing that energy. And as I sip my tea, you couldn't know like how cleansing and detoxifying that felt. But I have discovered a way to bridge that gap, which I'm really excited about. So, along with facilitating rituals and these more casual discussions and conversations, I also send out to the women in the circle through the physical mail gift boxes. And so these boxes contain all the items that you need for the ritual for that month. So that might be sage, crystals, candles, nice papers, ribbons, all of those things. Also, items that can help us share the experience of engaging our senses together. Things like teas and fine chocolates and incense and oils. Also, things like handcrafted tokens and products that just can help us connect throughout the month, connect more with our intentions, and just serve as little reminders of love and support and of the connection that we have to the group. So as I mentioned in the introduction, my heart lies in small group work with women. So I am not interested at all in facilitating a group of like 300 women in a Facebook group, or even 30 for that matter. And I've noticed a lot of coaches and a lot of spiritual advisors that I follow are moving into this like membership type offering. And so I've joined several of them because they're awesome. When someone I love and respect is offering a membership at like $29 or $39 a month, like that's a no-brainer. I'm going to do that. But what I've discovered over and over again is that that's just not how I like to show up. So if I'm going to commit my resources to a person or to my own spiritual development, you know, I don't want to be one of 200 women trying to get my voice heard and trying to get my questions answered. And that's no fault of the facilitators. I mean, when you have a large group, you can't take care of, you know, and offer a real high touch, deep level of support. I love it when the kitties come on and all of the animals. Yeah, so, I'm going to share this with you guys in the chat box. So that is, however, exactly how I like to show up. And that's how I like to serve women that I meet. And that's how I like to show up in this circle. So my roots run deep. I crave that deep level of connection. That is what nourishes my soul. That allows me to then expand out and nourish others in deeply meaningful and transformative ways. That's just an important aspect of the offering that I want you to explore with me. So in offering that deep level of support, what I do is we have weekly gatherings. So some of that is in sacred ritual, some of it is in a more casual discussion. I am daily presence. I'm there with you every day, or at least available to you every day. We have a monthly live yoga studio, and that is taught by my dear friend Jeanette, because that is one of the few certifications that my inner critic didn't force me to get. So she is a certified yoga instructor. each month too, I send out an email with downloads, and that has the ritual recipes, the creative process guides, the meditations, also any additional resources. So if you want to dig into some of the stuff at an even deeper level, and all of that is just to engage in at your own pace. So not to be overwhelmed with, just, take what works for you. And to engage in that alongside the support of me and the other women in the group. I also have just one-to-one openings for sessions. So if you feel like you do need more support, maybe you're going through something that's particularly challenging, or you just want to work through something more privately, that's fine. I'm totally there for you. That's what I love. But I also want the experience to be fun and playful. So I put together some Spotify playlists, and I've loaded those with songs that just to get you to move and dance and sing and just step fully into that creative expression. Nobody has to listen to you sing. Nobody has to watch you dance, but that stuff is there for you to enjoy. And then text reminders. So just sending out fun little text reminders sprinkled randomly throughout the month, just to make you smile and to remind you that you're loved and that you're supported. And I also send everyone a nice little welcome gift and just other fun surprises along the way. I enjoy surprising people, and I really dig that connection. So all of that is in this membership program, and it's $229 a month, which is less than any of my private coaching packages, but it still has that same level of support. Plus you get Happy Mail, and it's just fun to get a gift in the mail. So that's always nice. However, for being here with me, for sharing this experience, I'm gonna offer that to you guys for $137 a month. Not a limited time offer. For as long as you're a member, it will always just be $137, which is pretty incredible, but it feels really good. So I want you guys to have that. I did put a link in the chat box. So if you want to sign up, and everyone who signs up while we're here today, while we're live tonight, I guess, I'm also going to gift you with a private session at no additional cost. So that session can be private coaching, it can be an oracle card reading, it can be a guided intuitive meditation session. So whatever you need, that's what we'll do. And it is stated on the checkout page, but I just want to point out that this new cycle begins in January. So you won't be charged until December 15th. So when you go to sign up tonight, you won't be charged. Payments are always made on the 15th of the month, and that gives me time to curate and wrap and pack these little gift boxes and make sure that those get sent out to you on time. Also, there's no contract. So if you don't feel like you're receiving what you need, then you just let me know. That's it. It's that easy. Also, if any technical issues arise, you're always going to be helped directly by me. So no one in the circle will be sent to a support staff for anything. You'll always be able to contact me, and you'll always be able to reach me. And that's part of my promise and commitment to protecting and honoring your privacy. So there's really going to be no outside support staff in there. So if there are any questions, again, I'm happy. You can unmic, you can use the chat box, and I'm happy to hang out here and take any questions as long as you guys are here and have them. If not, I thank you. Those who did come and hang out with me and participate tonight, I just want to remind you to check your emails, because I do have a special thing for you there. But otherwise,
so in the group, is it? Oh.
No, go ahead, Molly.
I have a question. In the group, is it going to be similar to this workshop where there's a ritual to tailor to each person, or I mean to like a different focus? So something like this, but
yeah,
every time.
Yeah. So there will always be typically at least one ritual. And it will be, like I said, as we're wrapping up the end of this year, and we're in this process of reflection, finding what works, finding what we want more of, finding what we want less of, and thanking and releasing that. So it will, that first circle is going to be, or that first month is going to be a lot around releasing, connecting to our vision, getting some clarity around what we want to create going forward. So there are these overarching themes, but also there is whatever you need. And that's a super important part of it, is you're not going to be off topic ever. So if you have something coming up for you that in no way relates to releasing, reflecting, visioning, clarity, I want to support you with that. Because that's what I want to do. That's what I love to do. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Super. You're welcome. I'm just going back and making sure I didn't miss any chat box comments. I am sad that my cat didn't come to say hello. Usually he does.
I'm so excited to schedule with you. I'm going to do a reading. Mm-hmm.
Super. Me too. Okay. As long as there's no questions, because I do want to be considerate to the people that are watching this on the replay. I don't want to just offer them a lot of dead space to watch. So as long as there's no questions, if there are, just reply to the email. That's how easy that is. I read and respond to every email. So you can reach me that way. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And for everyone that's watching on the replay, thank you for taking the time to be here and watch this. So I look forward to getting to know everyone a whole lot better in the circle.